pre-work, I've recorded this, but I'm posting it live. So, ooh, I'm not actually live, but the video should go out live, like some sort of promotion. Anywho, day two. So we haven't even had day one yet. This is the morning, Wednesday, Tuesday morning. Don't even know what day of the week it is. But basically, day two's declarations, the 40-hour decks that were already out. I'm going to run through what I fancy for day two. Keep the theme the same as yesterday's one, where I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet, and only really talk about the races where I have looked into them with a reasonable amount of depth. Lots of interesting other handicaps that you could get stuck into, but again, it's a case of some like lower class ones with horses that have maybe promised stuff in the past that have never really delivered, and then there'll be a few weird conditions race which we'll come on to. So the first race, there isn't anything in there that I'd even want to look at twice, so we'll completely ignore that. The second race is one of these that's got conditions coming out of its backside. Different weight allowances depending on age. There's penalties for horses winning certain races, and then there's also allowances depending on purchase prices as well. Like honestly, it's all over the shop for conditions of the race. But all of that said, Heather Rocco, Henry de Bromhead, Rachel Blackmore is a horse that I was keeping an eye on for the next time that it ran anyway. It's the highest rated of this field of those that have got ratings anyway. It's a horse that Rachel Blackmore's ridden, and they didn't really seem to have a great relationship, to be honest. He's won twice at Limerick under Hughie Morgan. You can't knock Rachel Blackmore because obviously she's an absolute beast of a jockey, but there was something about him at Thurles. They ran in a novice hurdle. It was a fairly decent one. Tory Graf was in there that won the race. Fighter Adam was in there as well. Willie Mullins, that they fancied to be something special, but he runs as well on the same card. But yeah, Heather Rocco just wasn't really great that day, which was a bit disappointing. But you have to put a line through those sorts of races. So put a line through that, and then Julie dotted up back at Limerick after in a novice hurdle, and it was very, very easy. That run came on heavy ground. The other run at Limerick where it won came on heavy ground, but point background suggested it'd be better on better ground. This is a middle distance trip, so it had won 2 miles the last day, but like they think it's got stamina. I just think it's going to be shortish enough price, but I do think this Heather Rocco's, it feels like it's got a proper chance in here. Fairly lightly raced as well, where I talked about we get some of these races where they're getting to be a bit exposed. Maybe we're expecting a bit more. We haven't quite seen it from them. I just think this Heather Rocco, just have to forgive that Thurles run if you can. I think Heather Rocco could be better than this bunch, and on the conditions of this race, gets in quite nicely, I think, despite carrying top weight. So Heather Rocco, again, is a fairly obvious one, I think, but I'd give that one more than a second glance. Then there's a hotel hurdle after this, which, again, there are weight allowances and there's penalties in here as well. So official ratings and figures, the way that the races pan out, you can sometimes get some that are very well treated in here. Not quite the case in this race. There's a couple that got chances in here. Decimation, another one, Rachel Blackmore, Henry de Bromhead is probably going to be fav. I'd struggle to pick against it, but I do think it's vulnerable. So who knows? Not really telling you too much in that race, but yeah, that second race, I think Heather Rocco's worth a tentative look at and maybe a punt. Don't like the third race really, but I do think Decimation is probably the one to beat, but I think it's vulnerable. So we'll move on to the Grade 1 novices hurdles. The Tory Graf that I talked about that Heather Rocco was well beaten by is a massive price in this race, 14 to 1 poke. Cross Hill, recent winner, is another one that's a big price. I say a recent winner. Recently ran well. It beat Vanillier earlier in the season. That horse seems to progress. Don't think Cross Hill really has progressed, but they're both quite big prices. Horses that I think could probably go okay. Now, obviously, Tory Graf was very well beaten at Cheltenham, and you would have thought they'd exploit the handicap mark of 137 if they thought that this horse was graded quality. But so interesting to see that they're still persevering with that grade standard with him. Galloping Deschamps, Paul Townend's riding. Now, Paul Townend is going to take as many rides as he can to bolster his chance for being top jockey, but he's not riding in every single race. So I think he's basically riding the horses that he genuinely thinks have got a proper chance. Galloping Deschamps was obviously very impressive at Cheltenham. This is a completely different kettle of fish now. Back into graded company, where he ran as in a Grade 1 before, and he wasn't really that poor, considering he was 100 to 1 poke and he was beaten 10 lengths by Appreciate. Like, the context of that form maybe doesn't look so bad. The only knock for the Galloping Deschamps thing is Languedown was like a recent runner, went under a bit of a penalty, so how deep that is. And then my boy Fleur was 10 lengths in behind, but maybe the better ground helped gallop into shot. But he's very interested in him. Paul Tannen obviously riding makes him an obvious one that's going to be well supported. Tell Me Something Girl, she was very impressive in the Mares Novice Hurdle, wasn't she? Like, this looks a pretty deep race. Gentleman's Game was a little disappointing the last day, but maybe needed that coming in for a prep for this. Statler, one that I liked for the Albert Bartlett, wasn't really that good at Cheltenham, so maybe he's just a bit vulnerable in here. Obviously, Vanillier, that did win at Cheltenham, you'd probably struggle to say why he wouldn't win this as well. And then Crosshill, it did have that earlier season form. Like, I still do think we haven't seen the best of this horse. Shame that we got the 8 runners, because maybe something will come out and it'll ruin the each way terms. But I'd maybe look at Crosshill and think bit of a big price could potentially go well. We'll just have to see. But I think Vanillier is probably the one to beat, isn't it? We'll just have to see. But it's a nice looking race. There wouldn't be anything that I'd have a strong opinion in there. Markets-ish about right. You can make a case for a few in there, but it'll be a very exciting one to watch. The Gold Cup's a bit of a fractious one now that Minella Indo's come out. I was hoping he would have been in there to hold up a chunk of the market more than anything. The kind of thought process going into the race was like, I fancied Mellon for a Gold Cup at Cheltenham. They didn't run him over that trip. They decided to go back for the Ryanair. They should have, I don't know what they're doing tactically with him, what they're thinking about doing back and forth with him in trip and all those bits and pieces. But like, I still like Mellon at this trip. Kemboy loves it round here, was the last winner for Ruby as well, wasn't he? So like, he would have been one that was on the list to think at. Even Clan, to be honest, like, this track should suit. And yeah, like Album Photo, maybe Willie Mullins did tweak his training, didn't he, after the New Year's Day run. Said that he maybe needed to train him a little bit harder going into the Gold Cup. So maybe those tweaks, he wasn't as A1 at Cheltenham than he was the previous 2 years, but he's still obviously a top class horse. I think it looked fairly open, to be honest. Like, Fakir stepping back up in trip, ran at Christmas in the Lexus or the Savills Chase over 3 miles and he pulled up, didn't he? Didn't really show his running there, but that run at Aintree to then come and run here, I can't see it myself. But yeah, another one that there's just too many in there with bits of chances that I just don't really like. I don't really know which ones to side with in there. So boring, but no real opinion, no bet in there. Grade 1 bumper looks absolute fire, doesn't it? It's unbelievable that the bumper that's run today on Tuesday, I'll say unbelievable, but there's the unraced ones, or the non-winners, so where non-bindings running the half-brother to Fernie Hollow, that's worth €59,000, and this Grade 1 tomorrow is worth €59,000. So in terms of class of horses that are in there, the bumper tomorrow is going to be just as informative as the bumper is going to be today. So obviously keep an eye on those. There's so many bumpers this week. I think there's 7 odd in there. But in that race, again, 8 runners, so maybe some each way players might see some money for some horses at bigger prices. But it is a rematch, isn't it? So Gard and Kilcreate. I still think Ramillies is a better horse than we've seen so far. Still not sure whether he could win this, but at 20s, I'd be, I don't know, semi-tempted to look at a few quid on him. And again, he's the sort of horse that I feel like I could probably back and then maybe lay and run in. Yeah, Patrick's obviously going for this. The jockey's title was in his own right as well. Jamie Codd's the one that he's obviously trying to beat. So you'd think that Patrick Mullins is going to be making the smart choices with the horses that he's riding. You'd think Willie would want to give him a couple of winners as well. Now in this race, he's gone for Sir Gerhard, that obviously did win at Cheltenham, and like, how couldn't you after Kilcreate looked like it should have been able to get to Sir Gerhard and he couldn't. I still like Kilcreate. I don't think that run before was just to fly in the, like a flash in the pan run. I think he has got ability. I think tactically as well, Rachel just rode a better race at Cheltenham. Obviously that was Kilcreate's and Sir Gerhard's first time there, but maybe track here could suit Kilcreate a tiny bit more. Pacing will be different as well with a smaller field. They'll still go a good gallop, but be interested to see how Patrick rides him. It'll be interesting to see what Derek O'Connor does, because I think Derek O'Connor's got the easier option. I suggest you just hang on to the coattails of Sir Gerhard and just try and pick him off. From a betting perspective, the fact they're 11 to 8 joints doesn't really disagree with anything I've just said. That fairly hard to pick between the two of them, but you probably trust Patrick. No bet again. Handicap chase. You won't get me betting in too many of these. This is a stupid one that anyone that's followed me for a while will know which horse I'm going to put up in here. But Dunvegan, right? I like this horse. I'm always keen on him when it comes to Punchestown, because he needs to go right-handed. Like, he cannot race left-handed. Whatever he does left-handed is bizarre. He's only run at Punchestown a couple of times, but he won that chase race where something else fell. I can't remember who it was. Let me just pull it up on Racing Post. And everyone was saying that horse would have won. Brecon for Willie Mullins. They thought that would have beaten him. I don't think it would have done. I think Dunvegan had the race anyway. but this is the track for him. Now there was money for him at Aintree in the Topham, which baffled me completely because he doesn't go left-handed. But there was money for him, and in fairness, he finished sixth. He ran all right. So I just feel like he's been set up for something. I know he likes Punchestown, so this is probably the race. And I've got to have a bit of a slice of him. I think he's probably 16s, 18s, 20s, somewhere around about that sort of price. Someone will be doing stupid amounts of places on him, but I'd give Dunvegan a bit of a poke. I do like this horse anyway, and I've probably got a bit of a weird affiliation with him. Obviously, Live, Love, Laugh was so good in the Topham Chase, and we know that this is the sort of trip for him. Again, like jockey bookings wise, the fact that Patrick wants to do some bits as well. You know, Brian Hayes is riding him. Paul Townend hasn't even decided to ride in the race, so like how much of a good thing Live, Love, Laugh could be, I don't know, but he'll take up a bit of the market. So, long story short, I'm back in Dunvegan. First time tongue tie. Have it. Come on. Then there's a Mare's Bumper. Class as a grade 3, but it's as good a Mare's Bumper as you'll see all season probably. I wouldn't have a massive opinion of anything in here that I'd fancy to be winning it. Obviously, it's a good one to watch for views going forward. I'd probably say that Holly Mount was much better than she showed the last day. Like, she was poor. They've put a hood on her now. Sometimes that's just what horses need to have done to them. But it's hard really in the context of the form the last day that she ran in, when she was miles behind Grandgy, like how she could get anywhere near. But I think Holly Mount's a lot better than she showed that day. Price wise, I think she's going to be short enough when really she should be quite a big price. So just keep an eye on what the markets open up for that one. But that's where I'll be sitting in that race. So Wednesday's a day of not really very much punting, to be honest. Shakon's going to bolt up today on the Tuesday, so that'll pay for the week anyway. I'll probably have a little go on Heather Rocco. I think she's going to be short, or he's going to be short enough, the runner. Maybe like 4 to 1-ish would be an okay-ish price. I could take a bit of a punt on that. I can't really have a go in some of the other ones. There's a few that are going to probably tempt me a bit with the prices, but I just can't do them. And then the only other one that I will definitely be backing will be Dunvegan, but more speculative. I like the horse. I think he's been plotted out for some races. He doesn't seem to do it. He even ballsed up on the flat for me, but he's got a race in him, I think, somewhere. So, muggy bet. So, yeah. I'll be back again for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There's a few more that I fancy later in the week. Be lucky. Let me know in your comments below the horses that you fancy. Also, if you have lasted this long, I've chucked a comp up on Facebook and Twitter. No one seems to be interacting with it, so fool them. If you want to have a go on it, look at the Twitter page or look at the Facebook page. Basically, you just need to pick a horse each day. If anyone manages to get a winner for all 5 days, I'll give them some money for some racing merch or for hacked up racing or racing tees. And then failing that, if anyone doesn't win on the first day, for example, I'll do another prize for anybody that picks the biggest prize winner at the Punchestown Festival. So basically, you can pick a horse every single day. If you get the biggest prize winner across the week, I'll give you some cash to go buy some horse racing-y merch. Yeah, see you guys tomorrow.